we have a red day in the crypto market, but we already have seen worse in some assets. We've discussed about that possibility in some of them. At the same time, we have others which are slowly trending to the upside. But overall, there's a lot of news happening. We need to actually understand what's going in the market, and you should ask yourself, what's your goal? What's your target in this market? Because right now, this market is showing you a lot of different signals. If this is going to be an issue, you need to look at which assets are going to get hit hard. And then you need to actually look at certain things in the right direction. But some people ask, that's politics. Why should we care? Because this matters. Because if you are looking at how things are evolving, you are investing in an asset class which is tied up against dollar or Canadian dollar or euro, against a fiat currency. And once you go through this, you kind of get the idea like, okay, this is happening in this asset at a time when this is exactly what the central banks are doing. So what do you think you should be doing? How can we be better positioned for this market run up? Welcome to the Scientific Investor family, where the normal retail guys learn how to become the next top 10% of this world. While we look at the market and say, okay, crypto is slowly bouncing, some of these assets are giving you something. First question which we would like to ask you as a family is like, while the price drops and there is a panic, that's where a lot of guys kind of, say, okay, this asset is not doing good, stay out of it. We had a different thought process. We were giving you that this was massively undervalued. From that point onwards, if you look at the price action, we have already doubled, right? It's already moved up. We have gone through that phase. But then we follow up. We do that. While we were following it up, we were showing you this. Okay, chances are high we may break higher, because there was a lot of YouTubers, going against XLM. There was a lot of, crypto Twitter guys going against this asset. But we were like, I think this has a long way. And then we actually came up with the idea highlighting like, I think, okay, we most likely will actually make a double bottom before we start bouncing higher. This is what the price is doing right now. It has actually made a double bottom pattern here, breaking through this trend line. So if you actually look at that trend line, that is now broken. So if you are watching the market, there is a lot of interest in the market, but it should be in the right asset, not in an asset which is still trending lower, not in an asset which is creating a lot of panic and confusion. Because when you enter into the market, you will see some of these assets are still trending down. You want to make sure one thing. If you have 100 assets, which is too hard to manage, but imagine you have 100. At least 45, 50 should be those who are trending to the upside now. So say if you have 10 assets, 40, 50% of that should be in right now trending to the upside. If they are not trending to the upside now, the issue is if there is any negative news, they get hit hard the most. If they are already trending lower and there are some bad news coming in, they get hit hard. Now, in general, what I would like to actually take you guys through is understand the macro. This is critical right now. Institutions. Now, that's a big amount we're talking about. 8 billion worth of puts, meaning they are betting that the market is going to go to the downside. So they bought less than a billion in calls where they're saying, okay, this can go up, right? Here, now, it's obviously options trading where you're actually doing that like a hedge. But think about this. If you go back in time, the value of what they are doing here, it's enormous. It's enormous. So these institutions are thinking something worse is coming in. Now, whenever something worse actually heads towards us, we know for a fact that governments print a lot of money, and historically speaking, that has been true. If you zoom in, zoom out, look at different scenarios, you'll still understand the fact that during these crisis time, they print a lot of money. And when they pull that money outside the market, yeah, the market slows down. But As soon as they start printing it back up, the market goes back up. So on a long term, this is what you're watching. So if you zoom in, again, the trend is massively to the upside. So fiat currencies are getting devalued, whether you look at US, whether you look at Canada, any nation, they're doing this, especially last 3 years. They have printed a ton of money. So if you weigh in these asset class, you already have the advantage. Whereas if you are in fiat, you have hard time. At the same time, you can actually ask like, okay, being in cash was the best option for last 1 year. Yeah, true. Why? Because when you actually zoom in on that, you get the fact that, okay, last year, you watch the price slow down. You watch the cash being sucked out of the market. So if you take US market, this is the trend for last 1 year. It's been to the downside. So the cash was being pulled out of the market quickly. And that's one of the reasons why asset prices actually collapsed. Now, if you actually take a look at how the institutions are actually positioning themselves for this run up, are they being in cash? Are they looking at assets? There's a lot of different things to consider. Say, if you actually look at Warren Buffett, before 2020 came in, he was like around 130 billion in cash. I think 130, 135 billion in cash. Right now, he's around 105 billion in cash. So I think he's looking for more of an opportunity here, right? Then you look at JP Morgan is exploring blockchain-based digital deposit token to accelerate cross-border payments and settlements. So I'm like, you already have different networks which can actually easily be integrated into your system. Use that. They are already partnered with Ether and all. If they want to use that, they can, but they understand that the network is not worth it if you're considering it for payments and settlements, because they're going to do mass payments, big amounts, wholesale payments, and it's not worth it. But for some reason, they're not actually jumping into the XRP ledger. I'm like, that's, come on, guys. As a business, if you want to thrive, you want to give your customers the best experience, then basically go on to XRP, go on to XLM, whatever you're going to announce it. Because on the other end, we actually see the way Ripple, the company, is expanding in this space with all these partnerships, getting all these payment licenses. So competing against them in the payment space in next 3 to 5 years is going to be super hard for any big banks. Let it be Citi, let it be JP. All of them are going to get hard time. They're going to actually get teared down on this front. Why? Because the technology they're using is superior to almost all the others available in the market. Plus, the network impact is going to be big. They're already there in the main areas of the remittance market. Let it be the India, the Middle East. You actually got that covered. One of the primary reasons for being an XRP investor is that then we actually see this. Okay, now this can be pure speculation, or this is pure speculation in my opinion. And I'm like, what are the odds for this happening? Now, we are all trying to look at the market and make the most educated guess, because it's still a guess. But you want to make sure that comes out after a lot of efforts being put into it, not just a hunch, right? But once you actually see things like this, you're like, okay, someone just paid $500,000 in fee for a transaction. And I'm like, maybe they never heard of the XRP ledger, the XDC, the XLM. But if you actually say, okay, I need a high volume, high liquidity ledger, then XRP ledger was a good option for them, for sure. But for some reason, the Bitcoin maxis have not yet heard of that. There are two different ways you can look at this. The whale actually puts it like, okay, they just paid this much for just one transaction. On the other end, the Bitcoin magazine is giving the narrative like, transaction confirmed today, paid a fee worth of this, one of the largest of all time. I'm like, how stupid should that individual be if he's paying that amount of fee just to do that transaction? Because he could have actually done that using the XRP ledger or any others, which can be much lower than this. Maybe they pay like, $1 or $5 for the exact same transaction. So utility is something which is going to take these asset class into the future, because adoption means the future should be based on the real life utility. And yeah, this news is out there. We are actually looking at this. But understand, usually we get to see buy the news, sell, buy the rumor, sell the news. So here it's like, okay, it's going to go to the downside. So what if at that time this is actually going to go to the upside, right? So there is a confusion for that. That's why you go into the price action and look at this asset. And you're like, okay, it's actually getting closer to that trend line support. Yes, if it breaks that range, it can drop another 35 to 50%. That won't look good, because if it does decide to dump to the downside, you have the 1, the 2, the 3, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And if you are coming back down, that should be the accumulation range. If not, it would be really bad, because the way others are presenting this network is like it's a bullish network. It's a huge, crazy network in terms of the efficiency. But those who remember back in the day when this price was at the sky high, as it was going up, there was a lot of issues with the network. The network was literally going down once, twice. And I'm like, okay, guys, take profit. There is something happening bad, and investors are not going to take it positively. And that's exactly what happened. The price actually started declining. It's dropping hard. Now, wait for this to start trending up. Once it does that, okay, be bullish. That's one of the primary reasons why we are focusing on XLM. And I've always stated this. Okay, watch this. Yes, I'm a huge fan of XRP for sure. But if you follow the trend right now on a weekly chart, this is what you're watching. We got this candlestick pattern. The price action is showing you got an engulfing candle showing you a reversal signal. Now, the market can actually play a lot of different things. It can first come back down, creating that bluff, and then move back up. That can be a huge move. Why? Because when you actually go on the monthly chart, reducing the noise, you get to see this. In yesterday's video, we actually talked about this, and right now you're watching the exact same thing happening. So if the price action decides to bounce, what if this impulsive move is coming out? I mean, we don't know, but if it does, it can be a 200% move from this bottom, and that would take us somewhere close to 0.35. That's a big move. Because yeah, you'll actually see some drop in between and then another leg to the upside. So if you put that into perspective, say, yeah, the price may drop another 45-50%. Say you take that 45% drop, and if we repeat history, we're going to run up another 350%. So taking that into consideration, you can actually say, okay, that means the price may actually go back up to $1 just in this impulsive move. Because this is wave 2, you're actually going to see much more impulsive action. But we're just looking at whether we have some upside or not. And the market shows you, even in this category, the market is showing you upside. And it's symmetrical upside. As soon as you break and move above this moving average on the monthly, you have enormous bullish sense coming into the market. And this is going to be for a lot of different assets for sure. You'll actually see a lot of different assets moving up, but make sure it does have enough volume for you to actually do that trade, to jump in, to jump out, and also make sure the trend is valid. The trend is your friend on a short-term horizon too, because if the trend starts breaking to the downside on a short term, you have to be cautious, because if this is the trend, it's good. Now that the price action is moving like a little bit above that, a little bit below that, a little bit above, a little bit below, now you're going up. It's good. If you buy here, being a trader, you can sell it here. If you're an investor, you bought it here, you buy the dip here, you buy the dip here, you add on and let it grow. It actually goes exponential at one range where it does not actually come to the downside. Instead, it reverses from the mean and goes up. At that point, understand, okay, there is something wrong. We're going too much parabolic. That means it's time to take profit. Now, if you actually put that into perspective, you'll go look at the price action. It kind of shows you something like this. Last time when we did this, you went up, you came back down, you went up, you had a short drop, you went up, then you didn't actually drop. Instead, you came back to the mean and you tried to go back up. That failed. Since then, you were going back down. And I think there is a probability we are going to most likely repeat something like that historically. Because Now you can plot this all the way and you can say, put the argument like, okay, we have done something like this in the past. We do this all the time. And yeah, you actually get this narrative on the macro scale, on the micro scale. If you get rejected, yeah, you're starting the trend to the downside, you go back down. So follow the trend. Let it be on a daily, let it be on a 4 hour, depending upon how fast of a trader or an investor you are. Normally, we use investor as a term to actually highlight the fact that someone is looking to long for a year or more. If that's you, and you're like, okay, I need more information on a lot of different assets, you can actually look at the Patreon where we go through all of this and give you guys the right perspective for the right assets at the right time. Why? Because making these decisions at the right time, I think, is super important. And that's why we try to focus on the SI family so that they can grow their portfolio based on the real assets. You want to make sure you have a lot of assets, great, but you want to make sure a majority of that is trending higher. You stand the better chance to take all these profits out when we have a divergence. So guys, if you receive value for your time, please do smash that like button for me. I'll meet you guys on the next video. Bye for now.